I don't even know why I'm making this video right now. So it's that time of the year again. Another Battlefield game's coming out, and set in an alternate reality World War II, it's shaping up to be one of the most anticipated shooters of this year. Only people are like really upset about it. Like really upset. And not fake upset, like it's only the loudest, most annoying voices being heard. It's like a majority of the votes on this trailer. It seems to be a pretty big majority of the crowd is actually speaking out against it too. It looks like people are just really upset because they're approaching World War II from a different angle. Sort of like an alternate history, using the same conflict but altering key details to have some more freedom with their design. But wait, that sounds a lot like Wolfenstein: The New Order. And that game was really good. Like really good. That was probably my favorite shooter that year. I mean, the alternate history allowed them to bring in a lot of really cool new weapons, and like the settings still kept with that like 60s post-war aesthetic. Without the pesky issue of like ethics or human rights, the Nazis were able to accomplish a lot of scientific breakthroughs at the cost of a couple 100 million lives, and it's just a really interesting way to look at the war, and honestly significantly more refreshing than just firing through waves of Germans again. I don't know if many of you are old enough to really remember the saturation of World War II games after Call of Duty, the first Call of Duty, not like Modern Warfare. There was a point there where all we were getting were World War II games. I think it was somewhere between the release of Call of Duty and the release of Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and it was just awful. I mean, people were just making World War II games just to have a World War II game because they would sell well. And it got so oversaturated that people stopped and they switched to this modern conflict stuff, which then eventually got oversaturated, which is why we have flopped back to World War I and World War II. And I mean, there was the whole future warfare stuff, which kind of also got oversaturated in the middle there. And now everything's just kind of terrible, and that's just the state of the gaming industry as a whole. But throwing some spice into the genre doesn't really seem like a bad idea to me. If it keeps it from getting stale again, I say do whatever it takes to make the game fun. Well, some people might say that Battlefield has a history of being a realistic shooter based on real history. You mean like Battlefield 2 was? Because that was a made-up conflict. Well, how about Battlefield 3 and 4? Those were like based on Iraq, right? Nope. Both of them were set in the near future, also in made-up conflicts. And that's without bringing up the amazing campaigns of Battlefield Bad Company 1 and 2, which also didn't really happen. That's also not even mentioning Battlefield Hardline, which is like, I don't even know what you want to call that. Or 2142, which, I mean, there's a fucking ice age in that one. I don't know how you can call that historically accurate. It's almost like they looked at the historical precedents in place and the history behind the regions, and they created a story around them. Sort of like an alternate timeline or alternate history that took place. So like basically what they want to do with Battlefield 5, only instead of being about the Iraq War and stuff going on in Afghanistan, it's about World War II. And I mean, yeah, there was some great representation of the first Great War in Battlefield 1, but even if that was strictly speaking true, which, let's be honest, there were some historical inaccuracies in that game as well, I mean, forget about leaving out the entirety of trench warfare. And yes, I know there were battles outside of the western and eastern fronts that weren't fought in trenches, so the multiplayer could still be accurate. I mean, even with that in place, that would still make Battlefield 1 and 1942 the exceptions for the historical accuracy in the series. And again, that's totally looking past where Battlefield 1 had these experimental guns that never saw active combat, and stuff like how the Austrians could use American rifles, stuff like that, you know, just totally looking past that. So then, some people would say it's not serious or realistic enough to be a Battlefield game, to which I say, have you ever played a Battlefield game before? I mean, there is bullet drop, and you have to like lead your shots for people running, and when the netcode actually works, looking at you, Battlefield 3, then sure it can be more realistic than the hit-scan weapons of Call of Duty, but to call it realistic? I mean, Battlefield 4 is a game where you can launch a tank 400 feet into the air, shoot its main cannon to blow up a jet. I've seen helicopters get taken out by trees before. And not just trees like in the forest, like they crash into it. No. This was a fallen tree that somebody attached mines to and then put C4 on the back of it to launch it forwards into a helicopter, blowing it up and getting them to kill. I mean, it's a video game. It's supposed to be fun, and realism isn't fun. Look at Arma 3. I mean, I love the game, but honestly, if you play some of those game modes, it takes about 3 hours to get into a conflict, and then you're dead within half a second because there's a tank parked 4 miles away that just shoots a shell directly on you. Because that's what war is. It's not fun. People are harping on the thing where a guy shoots a grenade out of the air to blow up a plane, and I'm actually okay with that, because that looks like a lot of fun, and that's something that I expect to see in a Battlefield multiplayer game. And also, for all you history buffs out there, that's actually something that happened in World War I, so go fact check that one. But by far and away, the biggest complaint I've seen on these trailers, even the ones that don't include the fucking girl in it, is the girl. It's a female character in World War II, and she's got a prosthetic arm, and she's using a cricket bat, and that's not real. That's not what happened. I thought about not even talking about this because it's just so fucking stupid, the amount of comments I saw on this topic. I just really wanted to say a few things, though. First of all, it's not a big deal. It's just not. Despite being literally the only female we see in the trailers, it's all anyone can talk about in the comments section. I can promise you right now, it will not affect the online play in any way. And if she isn't single player, well, we already had a female character in Battlefield 1, didn't we? So, like, why is that a big deal? There was a female character in Battlefield 4 too, I think, but that didn't get much upheaval. I mean, I guess you could say that's based on the future where there might be a female soldier, but these games aren't based on history. They're based on these alternative histories based on what the events actually were. Even the campaign of Battlefield 1 pokes fun at this. All the stories are just exaggerated tales of what really happened. None of it was real. Now please understand, I'm not on some crusade here to say that we need more female representation in World War II games, because that's just silly. But just please understand that it's equally as silly to say a developer can't toss them into their game, especially when they already said it was based on an alternate history. Really, to both groups out there, I just want to say calm down. It's a video game, and small character choices like this really shouldn't be the make it or break it if you want to buy the game. And lastly, there are these people that are saying it's disrespectful to not take World War II serious and present it in a historically accurate way. To which again, I just point towards Wolfenstein, but that's whatever. But I want to preface this rant by saying that I have a minor in history. 4 of those classes were dealing with American history between 1900 and 1990. I know some shit about this conflict, alright? Now, the people who fought in the war, men and women who left their homes to defend their country, they were brave and heroic. The war itself was anything but. Millions of people died simply because their countries willed it. I mean, sure, there was Hitler and the Nazi Party and all the atrocities of the Holocaust, but a majority of the German soldiers were just Germans serving their country in the same way the Allies would have served theirs. If you want a game that's more true to history so you can more accurately gun down the millions of people who died because that's better for some reason, then sure. But I say make it more accurate. Go a little further with it, you know? Let's make sure you can launch artillery into occupied towns, killing and maiming civilians, women, children, and make sure you get some extra bonus points for that, because, I mean, you know, that is historically accurate. Let's make sure we can play on the Russian front and, you know, burn entire crops and destroy entire infrastructures. That way the advancing German army doesn't have a foothold to defend itself in, thus killing around, 10-15% of the population throughout the entire war. Maybe you can get some bonus points in China if you flood a river and kill around 3 million people. Saying it's disrespectful by changing facts of history while at the same time enjoying killing soldiers who presumably actually died on those battlefields, it's just kind of fucked up, dude. That's all I'm saying. It's just a little fucked up. Or maybe you're just going to sit there and tell me that you only play these games online because you like to preserve the historical accuracy of the conflict. I mean, honestly, am I excited for this game? No, not really. Am I going to buy it? Probably not. I didn't get Battlefield 1. But if you're boycotting this game for any other reason than you don't like Battlefield, I think that's just kind of ignorant right now. It's a trailer. If it seems fast-paced and hectic, that's because it is. That's what trailer editors are supposed to do. They're not supposed to represent the entire game as a whole. They're supposed to make it look fun and action-packed. I mean, real-time 2 minutes in a Battlefield game is just trying to load into the lobby, let alone actually get in to play it. Honestly, the gameplay that I've seen so far is pretty solid for what I expect from a Battlefield game. It doesn't look bad, but I feel like I've played this game 500 times before, and I feel like they really didn't go far enough with the alternate history for the World War II setting to make it really interesting for me to dive back into it. I mean, to be honest, there are a lot of reasons not to be happy with a Battlefield game. I mean, it is EA, so that's one. You have to make a deal with the devil before you can actually play the thing. They haven't had a smooth launch for a Battlefield game since fucking, I don't think, ever. The class system is slowly being subbed out for more of a do-what-you-want thing, and the people playing the objective are about as plentiful as the amount of people coming to revive you on a conquest map. So, you know, I say go ahead and hate Battlefield. Just do it for the right reasons next time. I get there are people out there that really wanted a game similar to Battlefield 1, just in Battlefield 2, and honestly, I think that's what this is going to be. And at the end of the day, if it's not, it's just a video game. And if you want to play a good World War II game, there are plenty out there on Steam right now. Some of them are actually free to play. I can see why people are upset, and honestly, if you're upset about this probably isn't going to sway your mind. I just wanted to get this off my chest and say a few things that I felt like probably have been said before. Might have been said better, but, you know, I'm struggling for content here. So buy it or don't. I'm not going to be the one telling you to do either or. I'm just saying, it's just a game. It's going to be fine. play it anyways.